Okay, so like I technically goofed when it came to our coverage over X-Force. Like I did one video of X-Force and then skipped like 3 issues and we went straight into the Onslaught crossover. And here's the thing, because issue number 54 is really important for the last video of X-Force we did before covering Onslaught. And then the 2 issues after that one is technically part of the prologue that leads into the Onslaught event. So I don't know why I just completely forgotten about these 3 issues. So the first chapter of this video is going to be more of us just wrapping up a previous storyline, and the next 2 chapters are really more about the whole idea of Onslaught coming, but also setting things up for X-Force down the road. And to kind of get you guys caught up when it comes to the whole idea of what happened in the last video before this storyline right here is that you had Sunspot and also Caliban head over to the home of Gideon. Now, when they arrived, they saw that somebody had killed off Gideon, basically absorbing his life energy. You didn't have other members of the Externals appear. Now, remember, the Externals are a group of mutants that have the ability of immortality. And so when it came to Sunspot, he was very surprised to find out that Gideon was officially dead. Now, we had learned at the very end of that video that basically it was Selene. Now, this chapter right here, it kind of goes back and forth between the present and the past. And because right now, we're picking up a Sunspot being interrogated by, well, some cops, because they want answers. They want to know what exactly went down when it came to like X-Force fighting against the Externals. So you have Sunspot explaining like, hey, listen, X-Force is basically innocent. Like, we didn't kill Gideon. We didn't kill anybody else. The only person who should be labeled as a murderer should be Selene. And matter of fact, we jump back in the past and we see that it was her. She did kill off Gideon, but she also killed off some other members of the Externals as well. And so you had X-Force trying their best to officially stop her. Now, back in the present day, we also see that Charlotte Jones is there. Now, Charlotte Jones is one of those small-time characters in X-Men comics, but she had dated Archangel for a short period of time. And so once again, it's her unfortunately being roped into more mutant stuff, more X-Force, X-Men stuff. But it's kind of like, does she and her officers believe the whole story that it was Selene, not X-Force, who had killed off Gideon? And so with each member of X-Force being interrogated, we're kind of learning more about like what exactly happened when it came to that battle. So for example, when it comes to, oh my God, I forgot her name there, Siren. When it comes to Siren, she's the next one to be interrogated. Now for Siren, it's her saying like, listen, after you had Selene kill off another member of the Externals, you had Siren go look for Warpath. Now, when it came to Warpath, unfortunately, he was taken away by somebody else, not Selene. And so right now for Siren, she's kind of worried about him. Now, technically, this is her beginning to express the whole idea that she does have feelings for him and wants to be with him. And things get crazier and crazier because, okay, we do then pick up with Shatterstar. Now, when it comes to Shatterstar, it's him right now just kind of like the next person to be interrogated. But then he's confronted by police officers who say, hey, listen, we have this file on you. Like, we know some things about you. Like, for example, your real name is Benjamin. Now, this is really important because it's really more Shatterstar kind of figuring out that there could be a possibility of him having a past life here on Earth. Now, can I say I love Domino in this storyline? They're just trying their best to get anything out of her. And she's just like, no, I'm not going to say anything. Like, waste your time. You got nothing on me. Like, literally no information about me as well. Like, it's her just sitting there. And they're like, okay, you know what? Get her out of here now. Bring in the next one. Now, we kind of use Boom Boom as a way to explain what went down when it came to Selene after she already killed off at least 2 people of the Externals. And so we do get a flashback again, whereas us now seeing that it was up to Cruel, one of the other members of the Externals, to take on Selene, which he tried to do, but unfortunately, Homeboy failed, like big time. But either way, while you had Selene trying to absorb his life energy, that was when 911 arrived. Of course, their big guns, the big backup. And I am talking about, now I was kind of hyped for this moment, but it was very short lived. But you do have Cable come down, try to use his powers on Selene, and then try to combine his powers with the rest of X-Force to hopefully bring her down. Now, unfortunately, that did not work at all. But here's the thing, because right after you have Selene being able to knock out all the members of X-Force, this one particular issue is important right here, because you have Selene talk to Meltdown about Sam Guthrie, better known as Cannonball. You see, in the early days of X-Force comics, as we were learning more about the Externals, we were kind of left to believe that Cannonball could possibly be an external as well. Selene saying like, do y'all truly believe that boy is an external? Matter of fact, as your mentor, meaning that there is a possibility that Cable figured out that Cannonball was not of course, external, but has not told the rest of the team that. Now, right after she leaves, Blacksmith appears, an old friend of Cable, take Cable away and leaving X-Force on their own, and of course, the cops take them away. And so that kind of leads us back over to the present day, where we do see that for Detective Jones, she was able to help out X-Force to help clear their name. And so with them now being clear and being able to go home, now she's also able to go home. The problem is that while she's trying to go home, that is when she's then confronted by somebody in the shadows who's very upset about the fact that she had those mutants locked up, but unfortunately they were able to leave. And so this guy says it's time for Operation Zero Tolerance. But now this leads us into the next two chapters. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get back into our coverage over the prologues for X-Men Onslaught. Now, here's the thing, because the next two issues we're going to cover is technically not really part of the prologues, but we technically have to cover these two issues because they do take place in between the middle of the prologues. Let me explain, because when it came to Uncanny X-Men issues number 333, we saw Cyclops have a meeting with Senator Kelly. And that was Senator Kelly trying to have a conversation with Cyclops about what's happening with the government, but also other governments across the world when it comes to targeting the mutant race. The problem was that while you have the two characters trying to have that conversation, well, unfortunately, you had basically Cyclops and Kelly get attacked by somebody. Now, technically, we already know who it was. That was Graydon Creed, the son of Sabretooth and also Mystique, who's currently running for president, but he wanted to make sure that Kelly did not tell Cyclops anything they have planned for the mutant race down the road. Now, that storyline kind of ended at that note right there, with Cyclops and Senator Kelly getting attacked by Graydon Creed. And the book kind of ended on that note right there. So you were told, like, hey, if you want to know more about what happened to Cyclops, go read X-Force comics. Basically, you'll find out there. For Uncanny X-Men and X-Men, those two books, they will continue on to get you ready for the big X-Men crossover event, better known as Avengers X-Men Onslaught. And so for X-Force, they had to go on a mission to go get Cyclops. And the reason why? He was arrested. And matter of fact, he's being held by S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s helicarrier. And so this is X-Force just trying their best to break into the place to hopefully save Cyclops. Now, around this time in Marvel Comics, when it came to S.H.I.E.L.D., it was currently being led by a character known as Dum Dum Dugan. Now, for Dum Dum, he's kind of upset right now because, like, hey, his helicarrier is being attacked. Now, technically, he does not know who's doing the attack, but kind of gets the idea of why they're being attacked, because they're currently holding on to Cyclops. Now, because X-Force are technically mutants, and so is their prisoner, Dum Dum is not in charge of this situation. Somebody else is. And this mysterious person's kind of like, hey, listen, these are mutants, so is our prisoner. So technically, this whole entire situation is under my control. So step to the side real quick and let me handle this. Now, this issue could have been used as a way to just give us straight action for like 21 pages, but technically you had this book kind of being used as a way to give us an update on the different characters in this book. Like, for example, the first team to go inside is Caliban and also Cable. Now, for Caliban, he has the ability to detect other mutants. And so for Caliban, that power right now is being used to hopefully find Cyclops. Now for Cable, he kind of realized that Caliban seems a tad bit off. Now for Cable, he believes the reason why Caliban's a tad bit off is because, well, Caliban got severely injured in an earlier storyline. But it's Caliban saying, no, right now I'm using my powers on you, and I can tell there's something wrong with you. And so if you saw our last Cable video, which technically was a prologue leading into this event, you would know that, hey, the techno-organic virus is rapidly changing in the body of Cable. Now, the next team is Domino and also Siren. Now, here's the thing, because for Siren, she's kind of wondering why the rest of the team is not concerned about finding Warpath. Because when it came to X-Force fighting against Selene and some members of the Externals, Warpath disappeared. Now, we already know that he's currently with some other girl, but for X-Force, they have no idea. They believe that he is missing. But for Domino, she's kind of like, listen, Warpath had the biggest crush on you, Siren, for the longest time. He wanted to be with you, but you ignored him. And so now with him gone, is you finally realizing that you truly do care for him and you want to be with him. Now, the third team we have to follow will be Meltdown and also Shatterstar. Now, this kind of section right here is really more focusing on Meltdown, and let me explain. You see, for Meltdown, better known as Boom Boom, recently she kind of felt like she was betrayed by Sabretooth, and let me explain. You see, for Charles Xavier, he believed that he could fix the mind of Sabretooth, turning him into a better person, a good person. The problem was that, of course, Sabretooth cannot be fixed like that. Now, there was a point where you had Wolverine stab the mind of Sabretooth, and when he did that, it caused some brain damage. Here's the catch though. You see, for a good while there, you had some folks believe like maybe, just maybe, his mind will heal up and he might turn to a good person, or most likely back to his old ways. For Boom Boom, she kind of felt like, no, he deserves a second chance. There is a possibility that he could turn into a good person. And so for a good while there, he was kind of acting like a house pet. But then over time, his brain healed up. But he continued to act like he was a house pet, pretending that he still has some brain damage. And so, of course, it came to her finding out that he basically tricked her and everyone else. Now, he did escape, but the last thing she heard was that he died. Well, this is her finding out that's not the case. That in reality, Homeboy is still alive, and technically, by this point, he's part of X Factor now. And so she does get very upset. Now, that kind of led into all the different teams coming back together because, of course, you did have Caliban and also Cable being able to locate Cyclops. Now, technically, if we were back in the 1990s and you were only reading X-Force, you had no idea why in the world Cyclops was recently arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D. But back in the 90s, if you were reading all the X books, you kind of had an idea of why Cyclops was arrested. But either way, though, you do have our heroes being able to find him. The problem is that you didn't have our heroes get completely surrounded by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents being led by G.W. Bridges. Now, G.W. is an old ally of Cable and Domino. When it came to Cable, when he first came back in time, he formed his own team. And one of those team members was G.W. Bridges. By this point, though, the two guys do not get along at all for so many different reasons. And so for a good while in our coverage over the X-Men for GW, the man has been trying to get a hold of Cable, to capture Cable. And so for him personally, he kind of feels like this is his chance to finally get a hold of Cable and the rest of X-Force. Now, guys, listen, it's Cable. You do have the guy being able to get him, X-Force, and Cyclops the heck out of there. Now, the very last page for issue number 55 is really more of us kind of getting that update about what happened to Warpath. Because for Warpath, when it came to the end of that battle between X-Force and also Externals, including Selene as well, he disappeared. And so when we jump over to Warpath, we see him with another woman. And this character is known as Risque. And so now I kind of have to wonder who she is and why in the world he's stuck with her and not calling his team up. Now, as we dive into X-Force issue number 56, we're really picking out with Shatterstar and also Siren. Now, here's the thing, because for the rest of the team of X-Force, they kind of had their own plans for the night. And so you have these two kind of playing their own game of tag, which honestly is pretty interesting because they're currently playing tag at this old abandoned church. Now, why you have the two characters playing tag when you do have Shatterstar being able to get a hold of Siren, when he does plunge his sword on the ground right next to Siren, she sees Deadpool's reflection and it's him calling out for help, saying, "Help me." Now, with her seeing Deadpool's reflection in the sword, is her now beginning to remember what happened to her in an earlier storyline. Now, before I re-explain what exactly happened to Siren in an earlier storyline, we kind of switch over to, Warpath and his brand new girlfriend, Risque, where you do have the two characters right now technically on the run from the police. Like, the police is trying their best to chase the two down, but thanks to Risque and Warpath, they are able to get away from the cops. Now, here's the thing, because with the two being able to get away is also Warpath kind of cutting loose. And that right there is really big for his character, because for a good while there, he was always really serious and worrying about other people. But now it's kind of him just cutting loose and doing his own thing. It's kind of like Risque is pulling out a brand new side of him. Now, as we switch back over to Shatterstar and also Siren, you have the two characters heading over to the Wiseman Institute. Now, there was a storyline that we had covered a good while ago where when it came to Siren, she was sent on a mission by Cable and also Charles Xavier to check in on Dr. Wiseman, somebody who works very close to Charles Xavier. The problem was that when it came to Siren, when she had arrived there, unfortunately, she was taken in as somebody who was mentally ill, but in reality she was okay. We kind of find out that there was some boy there who had the ability to control other people's minds, to play mind games with people's mind. And so for Deadpool, he also went in there to save Siren, but unfortunately he also got captured as well. Now Siren was let go, but now it's her remembering what happened when it came to her being at this place. Now for Shatterstar, he also had these flashbacks of this place as well, but for him it's kind of like, wait, why in the world do I remember this place? I was never here before. This is weird. Now for Siren, she also can't call Charles Xavier nor Cable because those two guys sent her on that mission, and she kind of like, listen, I want to make sure everything is okay before we call in the rest of the team, including the X-Men. Now, you do have the two try to go in together, but you didn't have Shatterstar go his own way because he wants to know why in the world he remembers this place. The problem is that as he's walking around, he is then confronted by this young boy, Dr. Wiseman, and also Deadpool. Now, for a brief moment, we also see Siren just walking through the place because her goal is to find Deadpool. Her and Deadpool have built that bond over time with one another. She feels really bad that she kind of, not technically, but she did, leave him behind in this crazy place. The problem is that you have Deadpool just keep calling out to her, but from different doors. And so it's her right now having her mind be played with by, of course, this small little boy once again. Now, we kind of had to switch back over to Risque and Warpath, and when we do, it's the two characters right now just, making out, having some good time with one another. But then they hear somebody calling out for help. Now, this is a young boy being attacked by some members of the Friends of Humanity. Now, remember, the FOH group, they go after mutants, and they believe this young boy must be a mutant. And the reason why? Because the way his face looked. Now, in reality, his face is just severely injured by an earlier incident in his life. That's really it. But the problem is these three guys are just complete jerks. Now, you do have Warpath and Risque help out to protect the boy. The problem is that for Risque, she kind of wants to do more damage to these guys, but for Warpath, it's kind of like, listen, we don't go that far. We stop them, let them go, and let's go ahead and move on with our lives. Now, this kind of again shows that for Risque, she's not afraid to kind of go beyond certain limits. But for Warpath, he's still trying to hold back. He's not really allowing himself to cut loose like she did just right then and there. Now, this kind of leads us into a quick ending for this storyline because you do have Siren right now still kind of getting her mind played with by, of course, that young boy. But luckily for Siren, she was able to find Deadpool. Now, apparently for Deadpool, unfortunately, the dude had been tortured for a very long time by this one particular character, that young boy. And so for Siren, she feels truly bad about leaving him behind. Now here's the thing, because you do have Dr. Wiseman and also the boy appear right behind Siren. Now this is where you kind of find out the boy is not really in control at all. Matter of fact, it's somebody else. Somebody else known as Game Master. Now remember, Game Master was the leader of the Upstart organization. The whole idea of Upstart was kind of like using mutants to go after other mutants to play some kind of sick game. If you kill off somebody who is a mutant, you get a point. More powerful they are, the more points you will receive. Now here's the thing, because for Game Master, he is an omnipath. He is really powerful when it comes to his psychic abilities. Now, you do have Siren kind of being able to show him that she's no longer scared of him, that she's no longer going to allow him to play mind games on her and also Deadpool. But he does leave and go somewhere else, and leaving us wondering like, okay, what in the world is he going to do next when it comes to our heroes? But the very last page of the storyline is really us now seeing Siren being able to find Shatterstar. And she's kind of wondering like, hey, you left me behind. Where in the world did you go to? But when she finds the dude, he's crying. And it's kind of like, wait a second. Why in the world are you crying for? It's him telling her that he had a big secret revealed to him, thanks to Game Master. And we're kind of left to wonder, what in the world did he technically show him? But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.